Hey guys, I'm Nathan Lively from Sound Design Live, and today I am happy to introduce you to Zoid, the sound system tuning chatbot. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to use the chatbot in a really simple design so that you can decide if it's something you might like to use in your designs or out in the field. So right now, all the sound system tuning chatbot does is help you align a main to a sub. But as you'll see, it gets pretty detailed. So if you've ever tried to do this and felt like you needed some help, this could be perfect for you. All right, so you're gonna open up this landing page, and the first thing you're gonna do is click on Chat with the Bot, and that should open up your Facebook Messenger. Now it's going to start giving you some instructions here, and you should read those, but as it's opening those up, I'll go ahead and show you the design we're going to work on today. So here's a stage over here on the left with a microphone. Here's our main, here's our sub, here's our audience, there's the little guy, there's the audience playing. Okay, and I've already got a measurement microphone here, we'll get to that in a minute. For now, I'm going to put this up here so we can see this. All right, it is snowing here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've got my hot chocolate, so let's get started. All right, it wants me to set the sub and the main up grill to grill on the ground like this. Now, in some situations, you might not be able to do that. So that's the first situation I'm gonna cover. This scenario where we've got the main, we've got the sub, we can't move them. Click No Can Do. All right, it wants me to place the measurement microphone and talks about where to do that. I already did it. Let's build a crossover from scratch. That sounds like fun. Let's make sure we've cleared all of our processing away. Let's pull this guy down here out of the way. Processing for the main, reset. Sub, reset. So I'm using MapXC to demonstrate this today, but you can use whatever prediction software you want, or do it out in the field or in the warehouse, wherever you can get your hands on some speakers. All right, so it wants me to measure my main solo. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll mute the sub. I'll hit predict. Ta-da! And looks like we're zoomed in, so let me zoom out. All right, looks good. What else did it want me to do? Save the trace as M solo native. Done, and I'll go ahead and recall that. Okay, saved. Thanks. Okay, now it wants me to measure the sub. Back to our processing, mute the main, unmute the sub. There we go. Okay, but it doesn't want me to save the trace yet. It's because it wants me to set the sub level to match my target trace. So I'll just use this 90-degree line here today as my target trace, just for this demo. So it looks like I need to come down maybe 3 or 4 dB. Let's try 3. Maybe 2, maybe 4. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Save the trace as S solo native. And I'll go ahead and recall that in the second memory. Saved. So I'm going to do a Unity crossover. And with every step here, it has some things to try and help you make decisions, because this is primarily a teaching app, a teaching chatbot. But just to streamline this demo and show you how it's done, I'm skipping a lot of the explanation parts. So yeah, I already know what frequency I'm going to choose. I'm going to use 80 Hertz. So now it wants me to do a trace offset for my saved trace, and that's going to serve as a target. But in MapXT, you can't do trace offsets. So instead, I'm going to lower my sub by 6 dB and do a prediction of the sub at minus 6 dB and then save that. And that'll be my trace offset. So I'll save this one as S solo native minus 6 dB. And recall that. Okay, then it also wanted me to insert a high-pass filter. Oh, I need to make sure I take that trace offset off. Let's make sure that worked. Okay, so here's our blue trace. That's our active trace. There's our target, that brown one. Okay, it wants me to insert a high-pass filter, 4th order Lincolns-Riley, if I can. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to click on processing. Wait, are we working on main or sub? Oh, okay. I was working on sub. We actually need to be working on main. So let's hide this for now. And we need to do the same thing on the main. So solo up the main. Okay, looks good. And we need to do the same thing with the trace offset. Minus 6 dB. There it is. Let's store that. Solo native minus 6 dB. And we'll put that in memory A. Take that 6 dB offset off. Cool, there we go. Okay, sorry I tripped up there for a second. Okay, so we want to insert a high-pass filter on the main. There we go, got to follow the instructions. Open up the processing for the main. Let's turn on the high-pass filter. It told me to put it in at 30 Hertz. Great. We did it. Now, while measuring the main solo, roll up the high-pass filter until the active trace matches solo native. So why are we doing this? Basically, we just want to verify that our high-pass filter is working the way we want to, so that we get the result that we want, which is a certain amount of summation through our crossover region there. And I'm going to zoom in on the low end here. You can't always trust processors to act the way you expect them to. So although we would like to, let me see the active trace again. We would like to put in our high-pass filter at 80 Hertz and see a 6 dB decrease here at 80 Hertz. That's not always the case. You'll find that in a lot of cases you can't do that, or you don't have a Lincolns-Riley 4th order filter, and so it's just not as easy. So that's why there's all these steps in here about verifying that the filters are working as they're supposed to. Okay, so we're going to roll that up. Let's just try 80 and see if it works. Yeah, super close, right on the money, okay? But you'll find, as I mentioned, in other processors, it's not going to be that easy. What did it want me to do? Okay, they match now at 80 Hertz. That's what we wanted. You may need to reset your compensation delay. Let's check. Nope. Didn't need to. Save the trace as M solo high pass filter 80 Hertz. M solo high pass filter 80 Hertz. And we'll go ahead and recall that. Now what? Reset the trace offset. We already did that. Our workaround for mapXT. Let's work on the sub. I'll unmute the sub, mute the main. Okay, the same thing. We need to offset the sub solo native trace by -6 dB. We did that earlier. So now I should be able to, yep, there we go. So blue is our active trace, brown is our target. Now we want to insert a low pass filter at 10 kilohertz for the sub. Okay, so similar to what we did on the main here, same kind of filter. Check out the processing for our sub. Insert a low pass filter, 10 kilohertz. Basically, it's effectively out for the sub. Now it wants me to roll it down until they match. So let's do that. Let's see, it would be nice if I could look at these both at once. Let's take a look here. We'll put our cursor on 80. And let's just try putting our filter at 80 Hertz, and maybe it'll magically work immediately. Not quite. Oh, you know what? We don't have the right filter selected. Let's try that. There we go. Yeah, that looks really close to me, right? Good enough. Okay, we did it. Save the trace as S solo, high pass filter 80. S solo, sorry, not high pass filter, low pass filter 80 Hertz. And we'll go ahead and recall that in memory trace B. And did I write that wrong? I did. It's not high pass filter, it's low pass filter. Okay, I'll have to fix that. We saved it. Cool, let's keep going. Okay, now it wants me to find basically the lowest and the highest frequencies at which my main and my sub are still within 10 dB of each other. So that's pretty easy to do in mapXT. We just move the cursor down. It shows both of our, it shows a measurement at the cursor on both traces. So here's 87, 79. That's about as close as we get. 77.6 to 87.6 is exactly 10 dB, so that's 64 Hertz. Found it. What's the frequency? 64 Hertz. By the way, if you put in 64 Hertz, it's going to tell you that's wrong because it wants a number. So you only put in 64. And then same thing in the high end. This one's a little trickier. All right, I'll say 101 Hertz. All right, so funny thing about the way I built this app is I built it in this program that doesn't have a math module. So it can't calculate a square root, so you're gonna have to do it for the bot. So just copy and paste that into Google or open up your calculator or whatever you need to do. The answer is 80. De nada. All right, now it's going to give me some tips here about my phase display. Basically standard 0 in the middle, positive phase going up, negative phase going down on the y-axis here. And it's going to give me some tips about reading the phase. Normally in something like Smart or Sat Live, you're going to have one of these horizontal lines every 30 degrees. But in MapXT, I don't know, it's a little bit smaller display, and I don't think you can change it. It has a horizontal line every 60 degrees. Okay, so here's the golden question. Are we within 60 degrees of phase difference between 64 Hertz and 101 Hertz? So I gotta look at both of these traces, go down to 64. It's always tricky to read when it at a place where it's wrapped around, right? So maybe let's start at the top. 101 Hertz. So at 101 Hertz, we are definitely not within 60 degrees, okay? And cruising down here, we're not within. We might be within down here at the bottom, but we need to be within throughout that entire range. We need to be within 60 Hertz. So I'm gonna say, are they within 60 degrees? No. And that's pretty common for a design like this where you've got, more than 6 feet of space here. This guy's up 20 feet in the air, the main. So now it wants me to look at the phase measurement of the main at 80 Hertz. Okay, the main is red, so the main is at 47.9 degrees. Then it wants the sub at the same place. The sub is blue, so the sub is 123.9. Now it's asking me if their slopes match. This can be tricky to see sometimes. It looks like the red trace here is a little bit steeper than the blue. So I'm going to say that they do not match. One is actually steeper. And it actually looks like the sub trace, the blue trace, is less steep. So here's where I need to type in sub. Okay, so it's suggesting 2.64 milliseconds of delay to the sub. So we'll open up the sub. Add 2.64 milliseconds of delay. Then it wants me to measure that sub and save the trace as sub solo 2.64 milliseconds. Okay. Okay, I did something wrong here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'll store that. Sub, what did it tell me? Sub solo 2.64 milliseconds. Sub, oh no. Sub solo 2.64 milliseconds. And I'll go ahead and recall that in memory B. Cool, so this is the area we were looking at before. Looks like we're a lot closer now. Looking at the phase traces, are you within 60 degrees between 64 and 101? So here we are at 101 again. Yes, super close. We're within 60, within 60, within 60. Down to 66, and we're still within 60. Great. Sure are. Let's put them together. Okay, so I'll unmute the main. Measure them together. Save trace as M+S. I'll recall that in memory C. Do I have summation between 64 and 101 Hertz? Let's take a look. So here we are down 62. Yep, this blue trace is our live trace. So we've got summation, summation, summation all the way through. Yes. Good work. Thank you. Let's take a photo for our records. So it wants me to take a photo of the array first. So let's export this guy. We'll call it array. Pop it in here. Then it wants me to take a picture of the analyzer screen. We'll call that analyzer. Upload it. Cool, then it's gonna send us a, oh right, the location. That's not correct, but for this demo it's fine. Okay, so it's gonna send me a report. Let me show you what that report looks like real quick. It's nothing fancy, but now you'll just have a record of what you did here today. So in the subject line, it's got your A+B alignment at this location on this date. And then down here, it's gonna have some information about those speakers. And then here are links to those images you just saved. So if you ever need to do this one again, you've got a record of it, okay? Then it wants me to share my results. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I'll share it with my wife because she's okay with me testing things. Done. Cool. That was fun. Then it asked me if I want information about future improvements. That will just put a note next to your name so that when I make updates, I'll send a broadcast out to you in Messenger and just say, hey, there's a new update if you want to check it out. Cool, and from here you can either start over again, read some articles from my website, you can leave feedback for me, some different things like that. So I would love for you guys to test this, and I would love to get your honest feedback on, number one, if you find anything that's broken, and number two, if you come up with any good ideas about how I can make improvements. I'd love for this to be really useful to people, principally for education, but also for using in the field. I think this could be helpful. It does some math things and helps you go through things step by step so that you don't forget anything. It's basically like having a little active checklist next to you or an assistant checking things off the checklist. And if you want to give me feedback, you can do that here. If you just type anything into the chatbot, it'll bring up this guy. There's also a menu here I forgot to mention. And here you can leave me feedback. Or you can always email me, Nathan@sounddesignlive.com. All right, you guys, looking forward to hearing from you.